Jared versus Joe. Joe Rexrode. I think that management, and this was their idea, but I'm not against it. I think management realized that 95% of the best topics on Robbie and Rexrode were about things that I had said or done. Every time. In fact, the first time Caroline ever worked at this radio station, she went on Robbie and Rexrode.
Very first day.
Talked about a take that I had. And then that became an hour-long discussion on Robbie and Rexrode. So they decided to bring Joe Rexrode, who originally, when he was at the Tennessean, had the nickname of Bad Take Joe, on for our new segment, Jared versus Joe.
Jared Stillman versus Joe Rexrode. Now on Stillman and Company. On ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Joe Rexrode, the Michigan State Spartan himself, joins us now on the program. Joe, good to talk to you.
Yeah, so, I will say that I didn't realize exactly how this is going to go. And there's some pressure on Caroline here. I was just telling Ian, because although Jared has many awful takes that melt your face and make you, you want to drive your car up the road, I still probably agree with Jared, I would say more than 50% of the time. So, Caroline, you've got to come up with stuff that will, that we'll disagree on it. Because I'm not going to fake it. Jared may fake it. I am not going to. If I agree with you, Jared, I'm just going to say it, man.
I am not a faker. I have never been a faker. I will never be a faker. I am not a faker. And I want that to be known because we had a Jared and the GM party a couple of years ago. And my dad told me that Floyd said to him, like, yeah, I know Jared stirs the pot, whatever. And I heard that. My dad was telling me, I'm like, Floyd thinks that? No. I am not a faker. Now, here's how this is going to work. Caroline's got the topics. She'll give a topic, and then I'll get a minute or so, and Joe will get a minute or so, and Ian will hit the bell, and then we'll argue about it, then Ian will hit the bell again. So, Caroline, ball isn't, to Joe's point, ball is in your court, and you get to decide who gets to argue first. Take it away.
So this really was a lot easier than you'd think, because you two make it easy to make a topic to argue
about. Joe
about.
says crazy crap. I mean, it's easy when he does all that. Go ahead, though, Caroline.
Guest gets the first nod. Joe, you go first.
It's like a baseball game.
This was a contribution from the class. Our first topic. PJ Fleck plays Ohio State tomorrow. They kick off their first week. Could he be the next Urban Meyer like Joe thinks he could have been?
Ooh, wait. So I start with that?
Yes.
I guess.
You take it away, Joe.
Okay. I do. I think PJ Fleck is good. I think he's good. He's very polarizing. Some people think he's a snake oil salesman. I don't know that he's going to be the next Urban Meyer, but I think he's more that than like the next Rich Rodriguez. I think PJ Fleck recruits like a demon. He's a motivator. He's got energy. He's got excitement. A lot of people don't like him, and some people don't like him because he recruits over kids and stuff. Like a lot of people get mad at him for stuff like that, which is all the same stuff Nick Saban and Urban Meyer, everybody else does. It's just he hasn't had the success for people to overlook it. So I am a big PJ Fleck believer.
So this goes back to a couple years ago. Joe wrote in the Tennessean that he thought PJ Fleck could be the next Urban Meyer. I said to Floyd at that day before we went on the air, I said, Joe Rexrode wrote in the Tennessean that he thinks that PJ Fleck could be the next Urban Meyer. Floyd chuckled, did that, ha, ha. And I said, why are you chuckling? And he goes, do you know PJ Fleck? And I said, no. He goes, I do. And I said, and? He goes, not the next Urban Meyer. And then had like his little chuckle. I mean, PJ Fleck, here's my thing. They're going to lose by 100 points to Ohio State. And they're going to have a decent season. They'll win their non-conference games. They'll, compete with the bad Big Ten teams. But ultimately, if you're going to be a top coach, then you have to go out and beat those teams every now and then. James Franklin, for example, has beaten Ohio State since he's been at Penn State. James Franklin has beaten Michigan. James Franklin has won the Big Ten. And I don't even really like James Franklin. But James Franklin has done all those things at Penn State. If you're going to be a big-time coach, that's what you have to do. If you're going to be a big-time coach at Texas, you have to beat Oklahoma. If you're going to be a big-time coach at Michigan, you have to beat Ohio State. So I just think he's an average coach.
James Franklin. He beat James Franklin.
Yeah, but James Franklin, you got to beat the good guy. That's not like saying, well, the Rays beat the Yankees and we beat the Rays. I don't care about that. You got to beat the Yankees. You got to beat the Yankees. PJ Fleck doesn't do that.
Next, I'm going to let Jared go first because I want Joe to defend himself. Number 2, taking Joe's headline from his most recent column in The Athletic, could Joe Milton be Tennessee's biggest gain and Michigan's biggest mistake?
Okay, so I read this column today. Joe Rexrode in The Athletic. And by the way, my subscription to The Athletic's about to expire. That's neither here nor there. And I'm reading it, and it almost was like, can you believe that Michigan would have dumped Peyton Manning and Tennessee is lucky enough to pick him up? I mean, there was a story in there about how great Joe Milton was and that he hurt his thumb, and because he hurt his thumb, he stunk last year, and that it's Michigan's fault that they didn't tell everybody that he hurt his thumb, and if he hadn't hurt his thumb, he'd have won the Heisman Trophy. That was the vibe I got from Joe's column. In fact, I don't sense, we talked about this, Tennessee fans, I don't sense an excitement for the season. They're going to watch on Thursday, but I don't sense a big excitement for the season. But when I read Joe's columns, it's like it's trying to get people excited. It's like Joe is trying to sell season tickets for the Vols. Because remember last week, old coach, bad. New coach, good. This one, quarterback, old team, bad. Quarterback, good.
Joe, you have the floor.
Caroline, here's the problem. Caroline, I just said Caroline, which is actually pretty, that's got to be a hashtag.
It works.
When you guys argue. But, Jared's reading comprehension is going to be a problem here. I mean, get out of here with this crap, Jared. I never said he was going to be a Heisman winner. I'm not trying to sell tickets for UT. But Joe Milton a year ago was absolutely the toast of Ann Arbor. And, look, he beat out a higher-rated recruit. Harbaugh brings in 5 stars every year. Joe Milton was, I mean, Harbaugh gushed about him for years. He was great at Minnesota, beating the great PJ Fleck, by the way. And then he tears the ligament the next week. The piece that I wrote quoted someone in his camp. And look, as I wrote, these people are biased, but I think there's a fair point to be made that Joe Milton was sort of made out to be just this guy who doesn't know how to play quarterback. Oh my gosh, he's so inaccurate, et cetera, et cetera. And he's trying to gut through torn ligaments that required surgery after the season. You don't think that maybe that should be mentioned? And when a kid's getting piled on, and believe me, Michigan fans pile on kids just like Tennessee fans pile on Garrett Taylor. You totally mischaracterized my piece, and we'll see on Joe Milton.
Hey, here's all I got to say about this piece. Quote, the emergence of other deficiencies on the team happened as well. Loss of confidence happened. It's a pad piece, Joe. It's a Joe Milton was great, hurt his thumb, Michigan left him out to dry, then they stunk, don't blame Joe Milton. That's what it was.
No, it's does Tennessee have a special talent here who, because of bad luck, and look, hey, believe me, Michigan would much rather have Joe Milton on campus right now than not. Believe me. And people I know who cover Michigan and know the program well thought he was going to get his job back this year, but he bolted. So maybe they mishandled it, maybe it's bad luck. The point is, Tennessee and Josh Heupel might have lucked into something here, but we'll see.
By the way, if I click meh on the Athletic story, do you get in trouble for that?
I mean, I won't get in trouble, but, it wouldn't be very cool.
The bottom,
Don't
there's 3 things you can click. Meh, solid, awesome. Joe's Floyd Reese story got an awesome. I think this one might get a meh. All right, what's next?
All right, Joe, you get the nod on this one since Jared got to go first last time. You have a minute or so. Either defend or criticize J-Rob's decision to draft Des Fitzpatrick.
Well, no, I mean, look, it's when you use picks to move up to get a guy who, frankly, people were surprised at the time that anyone moved up to get him. I mean, I know that these mock drafts and all these draft analysts you take them for what they're worth, but I didn't see anybody who had him higher than a 6th-round pick. So the Titans obviously felt strongly about it, and though John Robinson didn't really say so today, I mean, clearly they've been disappointed in what he's done. And so, no, I mean, look, when you use picks and you take someone there, I think you're absolutely open to criticism. In the past 2 drafts, I mean, we'll see with this class. It's obviously early, but Ray Dunn's right now, not an offensive tackle, drafted to be the right tackle in the 2nd round. Fitzpatrick, I'm still a little bit curious on the Monty Rice pick, although I understand next year he can be important. But it's 2 straight drafts that are, I think, underwhelming as kind.
So here's my theory on all of this, which is I don't care that a fourth-round pick busts. I mean, I know that at the end of the day, it's embarrassing to cut the guy as soon as he comes out, and it's like, wow, did you not know that this guy might have stunk? Like, did you not, your evaluation process, the same evaluation process that led to Isaiah Wilson, the same evaluation process that had you pick a guy that had a criminal charge over his head, the same evaluation process that had you take a middle linebacker out of Georgia no one had ever heard of? I get that. But my thing is, how much criticism does Robinson really deserve for a fourth-round pick busting? And I just don't think it's a lot. And I keep going back to the drafts, to Joe's point, keep leaving a lot of people kind of unsure of Robinson because the guy swings and misses at a lot of these picks that are just misses. I mean, today he would not commit to Dylan Radins being a tackle today. When I think it was you that asked him about it, Joe. He wouldn't even commit to that. And that's embarrassing. But at the same time, the guy wins. And they were the worst team in the league, and he's had 5 straight winning seasons. So I can't get on Robinson. And I think some of this is, as I said earlier today on the show, like the little Floyd, angel on my side that is, knowing what he would have said if this happened a year ago and the fact that he would have defended Robinson on this. But I guess I just don't care about a fourth-round pick busting, though it's not a good sign of the evaluation process.
I hate to do this, guys, but I agree. On its face, it's not a big deal. When you look at it in the context of the last 2 drafts, it's a bigger deal. When you look at it in the context of Robinson's entire tenure, he's got a team that should win its division for the second straight year and could do damage in the playoffs. I mean, that's ultimately what your job is as GM.
Give me one more, Caroline.
I can't believe I haven't done this one yet because I have to get it out there. Greg Schiano would have or would not have been a bust at Tennessee. Jared, you go ahead.
I mean, first of all, you got to give me a defined bust. Like, would he have been out in 3 years? Is that a bust? Or if he's there, like,
would he have had a more successful time at Tennessee than Jeremy Pruitt? Let's put it that way.
Oh, God, yes. I mean, without equivocation, yes. Here's the thing about Greg Schiano. Greg Schiano is a fine coach, and he would have done fine at Tennessee. It's a lot like Joe's P.J. Fleck theory about, I think P.J. Fleck's great. He did beat James Franklin once. Yeah, he's doing fine at Michigan, and he's a fine coach. There's a difference between fine and Urban Meyer, and that's Greg Schiano's fine. He's a fine coach, and he would have been fine at Tennessee, and he'd still be the coach today, and the fans might not like him. They might have warmed up to him. He might have gotten some good classes. He might be decent enough to compete with a Florida or something at some point over the last 3 years. But there's no way it would have gone worse than Jeremy Pruitt. There is no way it would have gone worse than Jeremy Pruitt. And I contend that had they hired Schiano, that the fan base and the negativity that came from all that would have gone, the way that other people view their program now. And on top of it, I think he'd still be the coach today.
Okay, listen. Jeremy Pruitt got fired for cause in his 3rd year. I'm not going to sit here and say Greg Schiano would have flamed out in 2 years and had more NCAA violations. I'm not going to say that. Greg Schiano would have been a terrible. Well, but this is where you and I disagree strongly. Greg Schiano would have been a terrible fit in Knoxville, a terrible fit. And you just want to gloss over the absolute bleep show of Greg Schiano in the NFL.
Yes.
Guys, I mean, it was awful. He did a good job at Rutgers. He's a Jersey guy. He recruits Jersey. I think it's a good hire for Rutgers now to get him back. He would not have fit at all in Knoxville in the SEC. It would have been terrible. And yes, he had a better track record than Jeremy Pruitt. I'll give you that. I can't say Pruitt. I can't say he would have been worse than Pruitt, but that was a bad hire by John Curry. And there were a lot of other candidates other than Jeremy Pruitt, other than Greg Schiano, who would have been better in that search.
Joe, what would you consider the first 6 months of Urban Meyer's tenure in Jacksonville?
Well, they're not what... Dude, go back and read about Schiano in Tampa Bay. Come on.
There was 2 years, in 2 years, Urban will screw it up just as much, and Urban's a great college coach. Steve Spurrier screwed it up in Washington.
You're comparing Urban to
great college coach.
So now Greg Schiano is Urban Meyer. My God. We've come full circle on ridiculous arguments.
No. What I'm saying is just because a guy screws up in the NFL does not mean that he can't coach in college. Urban Meyer cannot coach in the NFL. Yes or no? Urban Meyer will be will be a disastrous coach in Jacksonville? Yes or no?
Disastrous? No, but I think that the losing will drive him out way before he does anything significant.
The players there already hate him. He signed Tim Tebow. He hired a racist strength coach. He got in trouble for telling the truth about vaccines. Urban gets in trouble every other week. It's going to be an unmitigated disaster. And guess what? He's still a good college coach. So I can't hold Schiano in Tampa Bay against Schiano.
Again, you are now comparing Urban Meyer to Greg Schiano. So you earlier in an argument about this, and we've argued about this about 17 times, that like, oh, what about Schiano as a D coordinator at Ohio State? Oh, man, it must be tough, you know. Let's see, I've got 17 first-round picks here in my 2 deep. Okay, I'll go with this one, and that way, we're going to play quarters this game. Yeah.
Oh, man. That's our first ever Jared versus
What it would
Joe.
have been for Tennessee.